It's time we should start now. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third session of the third day. I hope you had grabbed a good lunch and are refreshed now back after the two sessions for new learning. And in this session, we are going to discuss the topic grammaring in context. I think many of you requested us to discuss how to teach grammar and all. So we have a very renowned resource person called Dr. Deepak Kumar. We had a very good English language teaching expert. Sir is a assistant professor in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, NIT, National Institute of Technology, Bhopal, or they also call it MANIT, Maulana Azad National Institute of Technology, Bhopal. So I welcome you, sir. Uh,
Thank
we
you,
are
Dr.
here.
Ganga.
Yes, we have the audience of about 150 across the MP from various districts of Madhya Pradesh, and they are secondary and senior secondary teachers of English. And as I briefed you about them, they are going to learn new pedagogies. And with this, I welcome you and I leave it to you, the screen and audio to you to manage the audience. And I'll be there throughout in case of any problem. I'll be muting those audience or removing them out.
Yeah.
So please take over the session and continue, sir. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Dr. Ganga. And is my screen visible? Can you see that?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. So, a very good evening to one and all, and I welcome you to this session. Uh, Today's topic is very interesting because all of us have been teachers and we teach grammar. And uh, this is what this is how I have structured my discussion for the next 1 hour. So, we are going to discuss the importance of teaching grammar, to do or not to do. If you remember the Hamlet situation, right, you can relate it to most of the teachers. They are not able to decide whether to teach grammar or not to teach grammar. So we'll agree at some point. I will also uh, I would like to talk about a term like grammaring. In her book From Grammar to Grammaring, Larson Freeman has given this concept of grammaring. So we'll discuss that. We will discuss implicit and explicit knowledge of grammar, types of grammar in brief, and we will discuss approaches and methods, different techniques. I hope that I learn several techniques from you also. Like we will share with each other what techniques we use while teaching grammar. Uh, but we will focus more on teaching grammar in context. And finally, I'll show you some of the sample lessons which I use in my class. Uh, and so I'll focus more on the last two topics in this slide. So let's start the importance of teaching grammar. And this is the situation, you know, many of the teachers might be facing. So to teach or not to teach, I just want a few responses from you. Like, what do you think? Whether we should teach grammar in the class while teaching, trying to improve their language, or we should not teach? What do you think? Am I audible? You can text, like, and you can
Yeah, sir,
message in
you
the
are
chat
audible,
box.
sir.
Yeah, you can message in the chat box, or you can just unmute your microphone and can say that. So what do you think? Like, can you give me at least one reason of your answer, like you think we should not teach or we should teach? Can you justify that?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, actually, what I personally feel is that teaching of grammar should not be done in isolation.
Okay.
It it should be done when we are teaching in the class. Learners are there, and during our teaching learning process, if some grammatical structure are there in the lesson, we should
Mhm.
just clear those points, sir.
Very good response. Like you have experienced, or you feel that we should not teach grammar in context. It had some problems. How do your students react to teaching grammar? Can you share, anybody share one experience? Like, how do they find it? Interesting, boring? Like, how do you find it? Your students
Different.
reacting to it?
It depends upon the presentation, sir.
Very good.
Very good.
It de- it
It
depends on the
depends on the
presentation. Yeah.
presentation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
So,
like, okay.
because
So,
uh, if we uh, give a basic or rudimentary grammar to the students,
mhm,
it is beneficial.
yes,
We may not involve them in too much intricacies, but
yes.
they should have basic concepts of grammar.
Very
For
good, sir.
example, syntax, how to
Mm-hmm.
make interrogatives, how to make negatives, and if they have the basic structure of the language, then it is easy to uh, for the teacher and for the student to uh, progress uh, in learning and teaching both spheres.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience with us. And let's make this session very practical. Let's share our experiences. So
And
we all
sir,
have
sorry,
been
I
learners of,
forgot to say good afternoon. We have
yeah.
met earlier at,
Thank you. Yes,
I
sir.
remember
I,
you.
yeah, we will meet several times. Don't worry. In future
Okay,
also. So we have been learners of grammar. We all have been learners of grammar when we were students, and we remember how we have been taught grammar.
okay,
I
okay,
remember, when I try to remember like how I've been taught, I associate grammar teaching with boredom and drill, boring exercises.
okay.
And if you remember a poem, Grammarian's Funeral, it's a poem by Robert Browning. In the poem, Robert Browning has taught us how to visualize grammarian's funeral, where a very good grammarian had just died and he's being taken to burial. And then, the visualization is there. So, but nobody has taught us how to, like, nobody has spoken on grammarian's birthday, grammarian's wedding party. It might be an exaggeration here, but the point I'm trying to make here is that I have never come across any poem or anything like where there is something positive about grammarian, about grammar. So I remember Robert Browning's poem like Grammarian's Funeral, where we have been taught to visualize grammarian's funeral. So okay, Newmar's comment on teaching grammar, he says that the teaching of grammar is neither necessary nor sufficient for learning a second language. That it is not necessary is proved by the first language learner's success without it, and that is not sufficient is proved by the second language learner's lack of success. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is that you will see in the schools, like in your schools where you teach, there are many students or teachers, your colleagues, who have very good command on grammar, but they might not be able to speak and write a very good English. On the other hand, there are students or there are teachers who can speak very good English, who can write very good English, but they do not know even ABC of grammar. So what do you think is the problem there? What is the like message? Do you agree with this Newmar's comment, who says that teaching of grammar is not important? Any one of you can unmute your
Unmute your
microphone and
microphone and
Good afternoon, Deepak sir.
good afternoon.
good afternoon.
I'm Vijay Verma from Model Higher Secondary School, Ishava, sir.
Hi Vijay sir,
Hi,
how are
Vijay
you?
sir. How are you?
I am very fine, sir, and I'm very glad to see you here, and very happy to have a very good session with you, sir. The question is, when you gave the comment of Newmark, and it really, I feel it very correct in when I see myself, when I look at myself, because I have been a student of Campen School, Bhopal English Medium School, and when I entered into the education department and as worked as an English teacher, I came to know that there are various rules in grammar. Then then I started to find out that what are the rules, and because before that I was doing it by myself, I never thought of any rule of grammar or syntax of grammar. And then, really, after learning the language, I started learning grammar. So, this statement proves to be very correct, because it is not very necessary to know very good grammar for being a very good speaker and writer of language. But still, that is an important part which is never sufficient. Also, that is also correct. Still, I cannot say that I am very good in grammar or I know everything in grammar. So I agree to that statement, sir.
You agree with Newmark's comment? Very good.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
You think
Sir,
that like
sir,
grammar
just
teaching is not necessary in Indian context? Is
sir,
it like
just
this?
I want to add one comment, sir.
Yeah, please do
We
that, sir.
are from the land of Panini,
Yes.
who is one of the finest grammarians world has ever produced.
Mhm.
So we must keep that also in mind.
The cultural aspect,
Yeah,
no, what Vijay has said is right to some extent. I'll say not to large extent. Grammar teaching is not important, but if you look at grammar, if you look at the
Sir,
English situation in India, like whether it is ESL or EFL, I'm sure that Vijay ma'am must have talked about English as a foreign language or English as a second language situation in India.
sorry, sir. Sorry
Yes,
to
sir, please
interrupt you.
go ahead. Yeah.
Sir, very good afternoon to everyone. This is Amit Gupta from State Assessment Center, Bhopal.
Yes, sir,
Sir,
please go ahead.
sorry, but I do not agree that point that you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
I
Mhm.
do not agree because I do not know in what context success has been used. In
Yes, I
which
will
field
go
we are
back to
talking
that.
about?
I'll go back to these lines, and I'm happy that you have made this
What does
point.
mean success here? Are you talking
Yes.
about this being successful in language? Are you talking
Mhm.
about being successful in life? Which field are you talking about? It depends on
Okay.
that. So
Yes,
first, we
we will
have to
get back
define
to
success.
this point. Yeah, we'll get back to this. But let me tell you, the Newmark here is talking about language learning success. What he is saying that I'll tell you, you will see, you will find many of your colleagues and students who are not very good in grammar, but they are successful in writing and speaking. They can speak very good English, they can speak fluently, and they can write.
No, 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 sir,
So,
sorry. They cannot
yes,
write properly without getting good at grammar. They
okay,
can commit
good.
mistakes. Writing,
We will get back. We will discuss this point, sir. You without having a very good grammar, we cannot write English. Can we write that? That's a very good point. We will answer this in the next slide. So what I was saying, Bizya ma'am must have talked about the situation of English in India, whether it is a second language or a foreign language. We must understand this. Uh, what Newmark has said in the previous comment, he has said that the way we have learned Hindi, for example, we did not join any Hindi spoken center. We did not have a Hindi teacher to teach us Hindi. We learned Hindi because our grandmother used to tell us stories in Hindi. We while playing in the ground, we used Hindi. So it was. So can we learn Hindi like that or English like that? No, because the situation there, English is our mother tongue, the first language. But if you talk about like Hindi is our first language, mother tongue, in common. But if you see grammar like English, even in Madhya Pradesh, if you go to some of the schools, some of the areas, uh, you will find that it is not even the second language, it is a foreign language. It's like third and fourth kind of language. In India, everywhere English is not as a second language. And what I have felt, what I have like felt and observed that where English is a foreign language or where students do not have much exposure to language, they do not have people to talk to in English. There they need some kind of structures, some kind of grammatical help. Now it depends on the teachers, on the training of the teachers, how we are teaching that, how we are dealing with the grammar. That is the main point of discussion today. We'll discuss how to teach grammar. But we cannot ignore this fact that, in India, in Indian context, we cannot do away with grammar teaching. It's important. Even Vygotsky puts a very interesting hypothesis. He says that learning grammar and mathematics is important for the mental growth of a child. And the ancient Greeks and Romans too considered learning grammar a source of disciplining the mind. But the teachers have to be aware of the methods of teaching, which is the right method, how to teach grammar, and why we are teaching that. The teachers should know, right? Whether the objective is to help students use language or to help them talk about rules of language. What is the objective? So if a teacher is very clear about the objectives, why he or she is teaching grammar in the class, he is trying to help students use language, improve their language skills, or to help them enrich their grammar knowledge. What is the objective? So there, the method of teaching will depend on the objective of teaching. So here, these two skills, to use language and the ability to talk about rules of language, leads us to the discussion of implicit and explicit knowledge of grammar. Is in the first session today, in the morning session, Vijay ma'am, I was also there. She was talking about innate language, the ability to use language, you know. So what is implicit and what is explicit? The terms are self-explanatory. We understand that. I'll just take you through it very quickly. So the first one is ability to use English language. And the second one is the ability to talk about the rules of English language. As I have just mentioned, that even I have many friends, they are, if I give them a sentence and ask them to correct it, they will correct it very easily. They will talk about the rules. They will say the rule, which is underlying, the theory there. But while using the same rule, applying the same rule while communicating with people, he or, himself fails to use that or implement that knowledge. So there are two types of abilities. One to use language, and another one the ability to talk about the rules of English language. For example, he made us to realize our mistake. You must have heard this, heard people say this sentence. He made us to do that. He made us kind of. Let me share an anecdote with you. Are we together? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Let me share an anecdote. I have kept some 10 to 15 minutes for discussion. Like when we complete the presentation, we will have many question answers. So don't worry. You can bombard me with questions because the topic is like that, and I will try to answer that. So let me share an anecdote with you. I just took this sentence to one of my friends. His name is Amit Namdev Bansore. So I asked him, like, what is the problem with the sentence? And he said it very easily. He just looked at the sentence. He said that he made us realize our mistake. Two should not be there. And then he went on talking about the rules underlying there. He said that, the man verb make, and he mentioned some other verbs, man verbs, which are followed by without to. And I was surprised. Then he was so good at this, topic. Then he said that, these are the verbs only which are used with to, like infinitive with to. And he remembered all the words in alphabetical order. The main verbs which are followed by infinitive with to. If I just can give you an example, like, talk about, if I can talk like him, he said that these are the main verbs, like agree, appear, arrange, ask, attempt, beg, begin, bend, care, siege, chance, continue, decide, desire, determine, endeavor, expect, fall, fail, forget, happen, hope, hurry, learn, manage, mean, neglect, out to, that out to, prepare, pretend, promise, propose, prove, want, wish, like that. So in alphabetical order, the way I have told you, he was also able to tell me that these are the main verbs which are followed by with to. Now I was surprised. Then I said that, oh, you are so good at grammar. Now, how do you find your students reacting to it? How do your students find it? Like when you teach grammar? No, he said, no. They find it very boring. They don't enjoy doing grammar exercises, but I made them to do it. Now I was very surprised when he said that I made them to do it. Now, if you look at the sentence, the same rule he was talking about, that he said that he made us realize two should not be there. But when he said the language, I made them to do it. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that the two types of knowledge of grammar we have to keep in mind as teachers, that one is implicit and one is explicit knowledge of grammar. So implicit is the ability to use language, which most of you have. If I give you this sentence, you will easily correct it. Your instinct will tell you, as Vijay ma'am was saying, that your instinct will tell you that no, there is something wrong. It should be he made us realize our mistake. But but you cannot talk about the rules. But there are people who can talk about the rules, but they cannot correct it. So in brief, like grammar A, which is implicit, our internalized knowledge of the rules of language, which we have in Hindi. You remember that. In Hindi, we have this implicit knowledge. Sometimes we say that Ram, like Mohan ye roz karta hai, wo smoke, wo nasa karta hai. We say, but if we need to talk about the rule behind it, sometimes some of us fail. So it's like we have that implicit knowledge of grammar of Hindi. So grammar B is explicit knowledge of the rules of the language in question, and it enables us to speak in a formal, mechanical way about that language. All native speakers of language possess grammar A, and not all of them may have grammar B. So I think this point is clear. Now this leads us to the discussion of three types of grammar. And this is very important. You might have come across these terms G1, G2, G3. It is grammar 1, grammar 2, grammar 3. I'll take you through this very quickly. So G1 is every language has a set of rules like Hindi, French, German, English. That underlines the working of that language. So every native speaker, whether literate or illiterate, intuitively knows and controls his or her G1, like we have G1 of Hindi. Without this, communication is not possible. You know the rules because you use them, right? But you may not be able to describe the rules or even pass an examination set on the rules of the Hindi language. I was like judge at Hindi Pakwara competition at RI Bhopal. So when I saw the question paper, it was like from Hindi to English, English to Hindi. It was so difficult. Even I found it very difficult to talk, So what I'm trying to say is, I can speak very good Hindi. You can speak, but when you look at a question paper set in Hindi grammar, you may sometimes, find it difficult to pass the exam. So that is Z1. Every language has. What is Z2? It constitutes the description of this intuitive grammar, which is made explicit in grammar books. The kind of grammar is the grammar of linguist. You know that we have learner's grammar, linguist grammar, teacher's grammar, and all of us as teachers should know that, because sometimes the students ask us, like, sir, please suggest or recommend one grammar book. So we should know which grammar we are suggesting, whether that is linguist grammar, learner's grammar, teacher's grammar. So this is kind of linguist grammar, which is the scientific study of languages. Such grammar is based on descriptions of language that arise from a large database or corpus of language. This kind of grammar can be described as knowledge about the language. And third one is G3, which is the kind of grammar which focuses on the use of language. Like pedagogic grammars are the grammar we teach in the classroom. And here rules and use are related. Now, what do you think? Which grammar should we teach? Of course, G3 we should teach, but we should teach in a way that, people, like, we should teach to help students use language, communicate. So we'll get back to this now. Grammaring. This is a very important term. Have you heard the word? Can anybody describe it? Have you come across this term, grammaring? Are you there? Are we together? Anybody can unmute microphone and say. Okay. So the term grammaring was first given by Larson Freeman in her book From Grammar to Grammaring. She's the first one who gave this term. If you look at the word, this grammaring, the word has some kind of movement, action. It's not a static word. It has some action. And Larson Freeman says that there should be grammaring, not grammar. Teaching grammar in the classroom. So grammaring, what is that? It conveys the dynamic nature of grammar teaching process. A process during which a learner acquires the ability to use grammar structures accurately, meaningfully, and appropriately. Means grammaring, like the teaching grammar in a way which helps learners, which enables them to use grammar structures in a simple way, right? And Larson Freeman considers this grammaring, this term considers grammar as fifth language skill apart from listening, speaking, reading, writing. Larson Freeman says that it is the fifth language skill, which is a very important point to note. Take some 2 minutes, and I would like you to read this extract from an interview with Larson Freeman. When she's asked, like, You treat grammar as a skill, you call it grammaring, and further state that teaching grammar as the fifth skill can help students overcome the inert knowledge problem. Could you expand this a bit further? Now, see what she says. She says that we all teach our subjects as we understand them. Now, if as a teacher you understand that grammar is boring, it's mechanical, it's static, then you teach the way you understand, as you conceive, as you perceive it, right? So she says that we all teach our subjects as we understand them. If we conceive of grammar as a static set of rules, we teach grammar in a static manner. Such teachers have students read the rules, apply them to exercises, and memorize them. These steps alone do not help overcome this inert knowledge problem. Therefore, I think the way to address the problem is to change the way teachers think about grammar. So first, we have to change our thinking about grammar, that it's static, it's boring, it's mechanical. No. I created the term grammaring to convey the idea that grammar is a dynamic system. And if you want, I can share the entire interview with you of Larson Freeman. This is important for the teacher to read that. Now, overview of grammar teaching approaches and methods and techniques. Before I proceed with this, can anybody share your teaching technique with me, how you teach grammar? Then I'll share with you mine. Are we together? Can you hear me? Am I audible? You can message in the chat box also.
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Yeah. So how do you teach grammar? Can you just share with me, like, so that I can learn from you? In the present context, in the context of Madhya Pradesh, in your schools, how do you teach? Yes, please go ahead, sir. Let's learn from one another. Like, if anybody wants to share his or her technique or method of teaching grammar, can go ahead. Have you tried? Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Here I'm K. Jomra from Ratlam. Yeah, yes, I think that if the students are capable enough to understand the listening, learning, reading, and writing, it means all the four skills through grammar. So I think it's a kind of skill, also a grammaring skill. I think so. Whenever I teach to the students, actually nowadays what's going up that there are so many tests and examinations in the schools that rarely we find the time to go for the grammatical items and all those things. First of all, we have to go with the course syllabus, and that's why it's very rarely we find time to teach the grammar. But actually, a few years back, when there was enough time for the teachers to teach grammar to the students, I always get students to understand the grammar in this way, that they used to write down, they used to listen, they used to read out the things in lessons, and through this way, actually, they were capable enough through synthesis. In fact, through the structural system, to understand the grammar and to be efficient in reading, writing, listening, and speaking also. So I think it may be called a skilled way of grammaring. I think so.
Good, sir. Thank you. So you are teaching grammar in relation to language skills, which most of the proponents of ELT, like CLT, communicative language teaching, suggest, and that's a very good way of teaching. I think one of the
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
one of the best ways. And we will come to this point before we share the method of teaching grammar in context and other methods. Let us have a very quick overview of grammar teaching approaches. So I think all of us are aware of this grammar translation method, because I'm sure that most of us have learned grammar or English language through this method. If we are from Hindi medium background, we had teachers like using grammar translation method. Most of us, I'm sure. So I'll quickly, talk about it, what happened there. So in grammar translation, you remember, like our teachers used to teach us grammar, and then, they would ask us to apply that grammar rule while speaking, or maybe the grammar translation kind of thing. So I remember my teacher giving me a Hindi sentence and then asking me to translate that and memorize. And he would ask me to memorize. Do you agree with me? Like, have anyone of you, has anyone experienced this kind of teaching in your when you were learners, like class 8, 9, 10, grammar translation method? Can
Yes, sir.
anyone
We
say?
have learned English through grammar translation method itself.
Yeah. So what
Yes,
happened
sir.
there? Yes, yes.
Not in Hindi medium, even in English medium, also they were using that method.
Yes, madam, grammar translation method, even in English medium. Like I did not want to generalize it, but I'm sure that most of us, most of the teachers, have gone through this experience. So what happened there? The students, generally, even today, you will see, ma'am, today, most of the parts, in most of the parts of the country, teachers are still using this grammar translation method. But I'll quickly just finish this part. So what happens here, students are taught the grammar of sentences in the target language. Target means if you are targeting them to teach English. And then they're asked to translate them into their own language, or the other way around, as you have said. They are given the rules and examples and told to memorize them. And then they are asked to apply the rules to other examples. Oh my God, this was so boring and difficult. I'll share my experience with you just, no. So what happened, like so what happened there? Why did it fail? We should know that. So through this approach, in a typical grammar translation classroom, what happened, a lot of attention was paid to reading and writing, if you remember. A little attention means no attention, we can say, was paid to speaking and listening. So most of the interaction in the classroom is from the teacher to the students. There is little student initiation there. Or interaction. So the ultimate goal is to achieve accuracy, that is to produce grammatically correct sentences, which was not possible. And it became unpopular because students translated written sentences, knew grammar rules perfectly, but they were not able to communicate in the target language. Now, what happened? I remember being taught by my teachers. I was taught English uh, by more than 4 or 5 teachers. Like that, this was my favorite subject. So I remember one teacher, like he was using this method too much. So he was giving me sentences, Hindi sentences, and he would ask me like to translate and memorize that. No, in my life, even today, I memorized those sentences in class 8 or 9. Even today, I remember that those sentences, but I never got a chance to use them. For example, there was a sentence in Hindi like "अधिक से अधिक क्या होगा, वह मुझे गोली मार देगा, परंतु मैं गोपनीय बातें नहीं बताऊंगा." So if the worst come to the worst, they will shoot me, but I will not tell the secret. I memorize this sentence in class 8, but even today I remember that. But I don't think I will never get a chance. I will ever get a chance to use the sentence, right? Even that time when I was memorizing the sentence, if the worst come to the worst, worst, even the teacher did not tell me that this is not worst, this is worst, because I used to read the word the way it looked like WROST, kind of, WORST. So what I'm trying to say, the point I'm trying to make here is that I translated the sentence, I memorized it, but I never got a chance to use that in my life, and I don't think I'll get a chance to use that. And another problem, uh, because this failed, the another reason was that uh, we could not translate. It was not possible to translate literally. Literal translation was not possible there. For example, uh, uh, let's say that. Kal, you are teaching your students, for example, you are speaking in English, and you want to say that kal जो है, कल दो प्रकार के होते हैं, मतलब एक कल जो बीत गया, एक कल जो आने वाला है. How will you say the sentence? Can you, anybody just, did you understand the question? You are just talking to students, you are teaching in the classroom. You want to say कल जो है दो प्रकार के होते हैं. Can anybody try? कल दो प्रकार के होते हैं. Can you translate it? Tell me if you are there. You can hear me. I am audible. Tell me. Yes.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah. So the point I was trying to make here is that literal translation, is it possible or not? What do you think? How do you
No,
translate it? Kal do prakar ke hote hain? Can you try?
no, sir. Just I have to put one point, sir. The actually grammar translation method is only to be used in the beginning. For example, if you take students from Hindi heartland,
Okay.
in order to start teaching of English, you can begin with grammar translation method, and slowly you can move on to the implicit.
आपका registration number
You can move on to the implicit method. It is not that we should stop there itself. And what is the there is nothing wrong in grammar translation method. We should begin with grammar translation method, but we should, that is not the end of it. We should then we should move on to the implicit grammar.
Good.
And we should move on to improve our communication skills and other uses. It is not important that we should stick to the literal translation and get involved in that jargon. We have to just begin from grammar translation method, and I have found that one of the reasons for the poor teaching of grammar in Madhya Pradesh is that we have left grammar translation method. And student, 1 minute, sir. Student is not getting the environment of English, so direct method is not working. And the method that was working, you have left even that method, grammar translation method. So we are nowhere. That is what has happened. So we should begin from grammar translation method, but we should not stick to it in a very stick to it in grammar translation method. We should move on to the implicit type of grammar, and we should then we can leave on the grammar translation method once a certain type of linguistic ability is developed.
Good. Thank you for sharing your. Thank you for sharing your opinion, sir. Yeah, we will have a discussion at the end of this, just after 10 minutes. But I agree with you to some extent, even to large extent, that grammar translation method still has some relevance in most of the parts of the country, and it's true. It's correct also that it is important. But the thing is that when we have several methods, as you have rightly said, one method cannot be applied everywhere. We teachers have to keep in mind who we are teaching, whether the students are from Hindi, as you say, Hindi heart or Hindi background or English background, whether the students have exposure at home, exposure to English language, whether if the parents interact with the student or learner, in English language, the students have some kind of exposure in the society. What you are saying is, those students.
1 minute, sir. We have to just begin from grammar translation method. But we have to move ahead. We should not get stuck there itself.
Yes, we have to move ahead. And I remember my teachers, they just one grammar book in one hand and one stick in another hand, I was taught grammar. And then the teacher did not move ahead. For example, and then I found it very difficult. And most of you might have experienced this, that teachers could not move ahead. There was a reason. Maybe those teachers were not aware of current trends in language teaching. They were not aware of different teaching methods. So they just bought a book, they read the book, and then they were applying, in teaching. So that's a different story. But what I'm trying to say is that I'll just quickly, we will conclude by the end of this session that which method is the best method while teaching grammar, while teaching English. I'm just giving you an overview of grammar translation, other method, why it failed and what was that. So it failed that time, as you have rightly said, that we neglected this. We said that no, this method is not right method, because the students they could translate the new grammar rules, but when they had to apply it in communication, they failed. So that's why this became unpopular. Then, as you said, audiolingual method kind of drill. You must have seen a book like Rapidex English speaking course. It was very famous. I think in around 1991 or 2000, like when I was in class 10 or 11. Every bookshop had this book, Rapidex English speaking course. So that is an example of audiolingual method. What happened there? The teachers gave students a lot of speaking practice by using habit formation drills. You remember the role play, like the dialogue, the conversation between teacher and student, the conversation between doctor and patient, the shopkeeper and the customer, like that. So there were many role plays and the drills. So it was connected to the theory of behaviorism, as you have learned in the previous session, and stimulus is the response reinforcement approach to language and grammar teaching. Now, what happened? The dialogues are learned through imitation. In a typical audio lingual classroom, the dialogues are learned through imitation and repetition. Students repeat sentences again and again until they are memorized. Students' successful responses are positively reinforced. Grammar is induced from the examples given. Explicit grammar rules are not provided. So, as you have said, that we should move from grammar translation and you should not provide explicit grammar rules. That should be implicit. So they try to do it in audiolingual method a little bit. And what happened there? There was student-to-student interaction, but that was not much. The interaction was always initiated by the teacher. And as I have said, that Rapidex English speaking course was an example. But Noam Chomsky, and this name has come earlier also today in previous sessions, he challenged the theory. He was the first scholar who challenged the theory of behaviorism. He said that how can we all say new things that we have never heard before? For example, you are giving me some kind of practice drill, like there is a conversation between doctor and patient. But if I have never visited the hospital, if I have not got a chance to interact with doctors, so he said that no, this one is not possible. And then in 1970, teachers stopped using the audiolingual method. And I don't see many teachers using this in today's context. Then the CLT came. Most of you are aware of that. As a response to audiolingual method, this was the. I'm not talking about teaching methods in ELT. No, I'm talking about grammar methods of teaching grammar. So this is the last one, as response to audiolingual method. So learners learn a language if they have opportunities to use it, and if the learners have a desire to communicate and a purpose of communication. For example, let's say that I was in Andhra Pradesh in EFLU Hyderabad for 10 years. But I did not learn Telugu because I didn't have that need. I did not find a need to learn Telugu. I didn't have a desire to learn. So I did not learn it. But if there was a situation that, no, you have to learn it, otherwise you will not get promotion, you will not get money, you will not get course or, admission to next courses. So then, I would have learned it. So what happens if you have an opportunity, means there is a swimming pool and you have a desire to learn how to swim, only then you will learn. If you have a desire to learn how to swim and a swimming pool is not available, a river is not available in the locality, so even all the rules, you cannot learn how to swim. So it was like that. So these 2 points have been highlighted: opportunities and desire. And CLT focuses more on content rather than form. It puts focus on communication related to realistic use of language, which was not there, that too in context, which was not there in audiolingual method. Realistic means what you do these days, you give your students a situation, try to make it real in the classroom, try to make them engage, interact, or, work, put them in pair work, group discussion, like that. So it concentrates on how successfully students can communicate rather than on whether they are speaking or writing correctly. So you see there, the error correction had a very minimum role. There. The accuracy was not the focus, fluency was the focus there. Correction often takes place after the students have tried to speak or write communicatively. But whereas in grammar translation method, teachers used to like interrupt. No, it's not he don't, it's he doesn't, and then teachers teach us the rule. So then this one came, and CLT is often seen as downplaying the role of grammar. As you can see, Newmark's comment in the first slide I have shown. So CLT is often seen as downplaying. It says that no, grammar teaching is not important. Sometimes it is dangerous. CLT, the proponents of CLT, they say that teaching grammar is dangerous sometimes. But in what context? In India, in Madhya Pradesh, in different parts, if you go to different schools, different villages, I'm from a village. If you come to my village, the students do not have exposure to English language. They do not have people to talk to them in English. Classroom is the only one source where they have teachers to, where they have teachers teaching or speaking in English. Even in classroom, teachers do not speak in English. So there, if you use this CLT and all these things, what happens there in that context, sometimes teaching grammar is important, but how? In context. What is teaching grammar in context? I'm sure that you understand it. Only thing is we need some kind of training in designing materials, designing lesson plans, how to teach grammar in context. So what happens, the current teaching approaches give importance to teaching grammar in context in relation to language skills. Like, for example, you are teaching writing, you are teaching students how to write a paragraph or a report, anything, and there even while helping them write, you can help them with grammatical features. So it's like it has to be in relation to language skills. Context can always influence grammar. I have given an example here. For example, you are teaching, imagine that you are teaching students the classroom objects, right? Like you say that it is a pen, it is an ink pot, or it is a table, it is a chair. Now, at sentence level, your students practice sentences such as it is a pen, it is a book, it is an ink pot. But at the context level, if you see, if you use the same, this morning I bought a newspaper and a magazine. The newspaper is in my bag and I don't know where I put the magazine. Now, what happens? The context has influenced grammar here. Now, in the second one, see, in the first one, the first mention of book and magazine, we use the indefinite article a or an before them. But in the second mention, we use the definite article the. Without using context, we cannot decide where to use a, an, or the. So we could not show this relationship there. So this is just one example, but it serves to show how grammar in context can, often function differently from how it works in isolated examples. An analysis of contextualized grammar use can be described as an inductive form of teaching. Now, inductive and deductive method, I'm sure that all of you are aware of that. I don't have to repeat, but in brief, I'll just, so inductive method, what is that? You move from examples or practice to rules. For example, if you are teaching students how to talk about daily routine. So what you do, first you share your daily routine. You say that, okay, so I get up early at 5 o'clock and then I go for morning walk. When I come back, I just prepare and have my breakfast. I take a bath and then I go to my office. I work there and I come back by 5 o'clock. It's like that. So you are just first sharing your daily routine and then you ask them, okay, can you just say what you do every day? And then you help students share their daily routine, and then from examples or practice to rules. And then there you say that, okay, so when you talk about daily routine here, you say that this is subject, verb, s or es, and object. This is the structure, grammar structure we use, or it is used while talking about daily routine, something with what happens daily. So that is inductive method. Deductive, what happened there, teaching a rule first and then following it by examples, the way we have been taught, like Ram eats a mango. And then I remember a few things like when I was taught tense, it was completely in Hindi, like जिस वाक्य के अंत में ता है, ते है, ती है इत्यादि शब्द लगा रहे, उसको प्रेजेंट टेंस या वर्तमान काल में माना या समझा जाता है. एंड देन राम आम खाता है, एंड देन देयर यूज्ड एक सेंटेंस आता था अंग्रेजी में, राम ईट्स ए मैंगो. सो इट वाज लाइक दैट. That was kind of deductive method, first rules and then example and then practice. It was another way around. So what happens? It happens when your objectives are to learn the forms of language first rather than communication through a particular language. This is not our primary objective, and this is not your primary objective, sir. I know. It happened when language teaching used the grammar translation method in teaching of classical language like Sanskrit, Latin, Greek. As one of you has said in the beginning. This is very important. I want you to take it very seriously. CR approach teaching grammar. Now CR approach and teaching grammar in context, these two are related aspects. Now what is CR approach? CR is consciousness raising approach. Now what happens there? I'll just share some of the examples, or sample lessons of that. So their learners are made aware of the properties or of a certain grammatical feature by highlighting them or helping students to notice them in some way. It is a cognitive approach to teaching grammar. It helps a teacher decide which aspect of grammar needs to be taught. For example, what happens there, you do not teach today tenses, to tomorrow narration, next day active passive. It's not like that. Grammar teaching does not happen like that. You are teaching them or helping them improve the way they speak and write. And while doing that, you find that your students have a problem with syntax, subject-verb agreement, is one of you has said it in the beginning. So they say he don't go, but it should be he does not go. So what happens? You pick up that particular aspect of grammar and prepare an exercise or prepare a task focused on that subject-verb agreement. Only that grammar aspect where your students are making mistakes while speaking or writing, or you give support or help in that only. That is CR approach. So, and there is a particular way of teaching, like we do not just teach there. What happens? They're students do not learn any grammar rules directly. Rather, they get information in the form of data. Some context is there, which consists of the form to be focused on. Then from the data, students get engaged in cognitive activities. It's like cognitively challenging sometimes, these activities, and which allow them to form rules about the language for themselves. This way, language is brought to a level that raises consciousness. For example, let me give you an example. Let's say that you use technical report in the classroom. You ask the students to read the technical report, and then later you ask them to underline those verbs which are in passive. So the students underline that. Now you ask them why these structures, like passive structures, or why those verbs are used there. What happens if you do not use passive sentences there? What difference does it make? So you are just discussing it and trying to raise their consciousness towards the aspect which is passive sentence, right? So there in the context, the students understand that, okay, if we do not use the particular structure, what happens? It creates a difference in the meaning. When we say, the cat killed the mouse, and when we say the mouse was killed, there's a difference in the meaning also. There's a difference in emphasis. The emphasis has, been shifted there. So that is an example. And what I'll do is I'll share some of the sample lessons with you so that you can directly carry them in your classroom and see how your students react to that. Are we together? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we are hearing you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before we come to the sample lessons, or how to teach grammar in context, if you have any questions, I'm sure that you have questions and you should have questions, please ask me. Let's have a very good discussion, what we have already discussed.
So I want to say something.
Please, sir, please tell me.
Yeah, I think first of all, we will have to aware, that we will have to aware the teachers first. We will have to raise the consciousness among them for a communicative approach, in fact, because the students and the teachers are at the same place so far as the Madhya Pradesh English is concerned, sir. Actually,
Yes, yes, sir.
the teachers, that since the very beginning, for a longer period of time, they have been teaching English for last 15, 20 years in their schools. Grammar, translation method is also used there. Many things are there. They are well knowledgeable. They have a lot of vocabulary also. But actually, they are also not able to speak in English. We know this thing very well because I have been a trainer for last 15 years in my district. Hello.
Yes,
Am
sir.
I audible to you,
Yes,
sir?
sir. Yes, yes, sir. Very much, very much. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
listening to
yeah.
you very
So I have
carefully.
been a
Yeah.
master trainer. I have been a master trainer, district master trainer for last 15 years. And I have seen that the teachers, whether they have been working there for last 20, 30 years, they are not able to speak. It is just because of this reason that first of all, they have to raise their consciousness to speak. Okay. Uh, Actually, it is just because of the lack of environment and is the that LKK, what the people would say, log kya kahenge. That is the best. Yes, yes, that is the most difficult problem before the students as well as before the teachers also. It is just because of this reason that even the very knowledgeable, very skilled, very scholar teachers are not able to speak even 3, 4 sentences in English. So first of all, I think that when we follow this consciousness raise approach, sir, at that time
Yes,
we
sir.
will have to aware the teachers to be very free, very bold before the people. Don't think about the people, avoid the people, because you know that I belong to such a very small village, very far off village where the most of the people are very Marvi spoken, and I was the first person in my village who started speaking in English. In my childhood, when I used to go and speak alone, the people used to say me, "Made person or Shakespeare is going
So
there."
can I request all the people to keep the questions limited to the topic as brief as
Yeah.
possible? Otherwise,
I'm coming to 10 questions, sir.
please be
Yeah, thank you, sir.
straightforward and to the point.
Okay, Ganga sir. I was coming to the point. I just want to say you that the first of all, before giving anything to the students, first of all, the teachers should be aware of this. This was my
Yes,
main
you're right,
point
sir.
only. Thank you very much.
You're right. See, particularly in Indian context, where where English is taught as a foreign language or second language, you see that most of the classroom is the only one source where students have exposure to English language. They have teachers, who speak in society or at home. They do not have. So even from the source, if it is not coming in a proper way, if the teachers English themselves, like they are not able to use it properly, the students will learn that kind of English what the teachers are using. You are right. Before consciousness raising, teachers raising, awareness, teachers awareness is important. I agree with you, and that's why NCRT and government, MP government, is I think doing a lot of things, trying to reach teachers in villages, in those schools. Even Dr. Ganga is working on a project, a diploma course in language teaching, where we have kept all these things in mind. So government is doing, I think NCRT is also doing, and teachers are also trying. It's not like teachers don't want to improve the way they speak and write. Some of them do not have access, but they are trying their level best. So any other question, before we come to the sample lessons? Anything you want to share?
Yes, sir. This is Amit Gupta.
Yes, Amit ji.
Sir, actually, for the last 15 to 20 minutes, we are discussing only speaking. Okay, we are focusing on speaking. So what I am getting, and I am not convinced actually, okay, that teaching grammar in context means only teaching through speaking. Means we have forgotten the books, we have forgotten the textbooks. We can teach grammar through textbooks and through the text or lesson that are coming before us, that we are teaching right in front of our students. So but for the last 15 to 20 minutes we are discussing that okay, we can teach grammar only through speaking. When we talk English, we can first talk something and just explain them the rule. But I think we need to use our textbook as well, as I used to do. So I think we should also talk about some other aspects that can be used in context, not only
You're
speaking
right.
only.
Yes, you're right. like what we are discussing, like teaching grammar in relation to English language skills, speaking, reading, writing, and so well, while teaching writing, it's very easy to help students with grammar and speaking also. While listening, like it comes the third one, as teachers you understand. So as while like to trying to answer your question, can you see the screen like this one? Is it visible? Can you see the handout?
Yes.
Visible, sir.
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir,
See,
we
I
can.
think this poem is in NCERT class 9 textbook, if I'm not wrong. Like, have you come across this poem? The Lake Isle of Innisfree by William Butler Yeats, W.B. Yeats. Okay, let's say that there's a poem, and using this poem from a book, textbook. I have taken it from class 9 textbook. You can teach students how to talk about future plans, right? How to talk about, or how to talk about what they're planning to do in future. So if you read this poem, I'll arise and go now and go to Innisfree and a small cabin build there, like that. So these structures. So what I have done, like here I have like made them, or in bold, these phrases, and you can ask the students to read it. And then first you can ask a few questions like, what is the poem about? What does the poem feel to us? Like, why does the poet feel to us to move away? Do you think the poet will really go away, or is it an expression of a dream? Do you sometimes feel the same way as the poet does? If I think this is for class intermediate level, or let's say class 10 level, you can use this poem, this method here. So this can be through reading. The students will read, and you underline or highlight these structures we use while talking about future plans, right? So here you can focus on one or two structures, and then you can say that there are some other structures we use while talking about future plans, right? So this is like, I think I have tried to answer your question. What you have said is, I focused on speaking and writing a little bit here. I was just trying to uh, give insights or make you aware of that grammar, this grammaring and teaching grammar in context, how this is like relevant in today's context, Indian context. Let me share another sample with you. In class 6 or 7, like at lower class, you can use these prepositions. I find it very useful when I use this. So what I do is, when I go to a lower class, there is a song of prepositions. Let's include listening, as you have said, sir. So you can play this song. It's just 2 minute or less than 2 minute song. So the learners will listen to the song, and you ask them to just identify the word which they think are prepositions: in, on, at, and this much knowledge they will already have. Just ask them to, even they identify the words which are not prepositions, it's okay at that level. So you just play the song and ask them to identify those words which they think are prepositions. That is the first level. Even if they fail to identify, you can show them a handout where the song is scripted, like song is written there. And if you do not have a facility of, let's say, audiovisual aids you do not have in the classroom, you can give them this handout, and you yourself can sing this song, and ask them to, like, look at all the lonely people, look at all this, so at, and then from, all these things. So you can ask them to underline, identify the prepositions, and then I have used this one in context. Can you see my screen? Is it visible? Say yes or no.
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Tessie and the kittens, I found it very interesting while teaching young learners in the classroom. So what happens, this Tessie is the name of a girl, and she has 9 kittens, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 3 have gone somewhere, we will find. So the objective of this handout is to help Tessie find 9 kittens, because see, in my neighbor there are 2, and we find very difficult sometimes to, we can't find where they are. So Tessie has 9, so we can help Tessie to find where the kittens are, right? So what you can do is you can show this picture and there is a line with a blank. The child or the learner will look at the picture and just fill the blank. Now, some of the learners may find it easy to look at the picture and fill in the blanks with correct preposition. But what you have to do here is that you teach them why on, why not at, or why not, let's say, in. For example, you sleep, let's say, on the bed or in the bed. No. For example, in some context, both are correct. If I was watching a movie last night and the heroine received a call from the hero, it was too cold, and she says, I'm still in the bed. Now you are in the bed. Now what context you can say in the bed? And we generally sleep on the bed, right? So you can, so don't teach one preposition. Do not teach just on. Make comparisons. For example, let's say this is Trixie is the name of the kitten. Go to the second one and say that Topsy is playing now, playing with a ball. No, do not just teach with. Do not focus on with. See, when we were kids, we used to play with ball, but these days we play with others' emotions. Somebody is playing with our future. So it's play with, generally play goes with, right? Play with, go together. So you just help them, understand that run behind is not like, what is a run behind the word and what is running after. For example, here Topper is running after the mouse. We are also running after money. Somebody is running after success. So you say that run after, what word goes with what, and all these things. So don't teach one preposition in one kind of, make comparisons. And then, so this is kind of, as you have said, that we have been discussing speaking only. No, what I'm trying to say is, in one lesson itself, you can include listening, reading, writing, and speaking also when you teach grammar in context. So this is a very beautiful lesson I have discussed. For example, you see,
I'd like to
this one.
Can you sum up? It's
please,
already,
please. You want to say something?
It's already 3:48, and next session will commence from 4 o'clock. So can we sum up now?
Yes, 5 minutes, Dr. Garsa. 5 minutes.
2-3 minutes, not 5. 2-3.
Okay. Okay. So the learners look at this picture, see this kitten coming like this, and you have a sentence. Now what happens? You don't teach this into. You will hear many teachers saying, he entered into my classroom. No, entered into is incorrect. We say he entered the classroom, but walk into it, like, so something like that. You focus on that. Now coming to let's say another level. Let's say this one. There is a riddle. I have used it at intermediate level, teaching grammar in context. So what happens here? There is a fortune teller and there is a riddle. Now the learners read this riddle and try to answer who will win. Like, look at the fortune teller's predictions for a race and who does she think will win. Now you can teach conditionals, third conditional, or maybe the second conditional using this riddle. Now here we have a context. So this is what I wanted to share with you, and I think I have done to some extent what I was asked to. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak, and I hope a lot of questions and queries have already been taken. I saw you started interacting. The whole session was very interactive, and you've taken the questions from 3:35 itself. A lot of time is given to questions. राम भूषण जी, आप थोड़ा म्यूट रहिए ना. आप देखिए कि आप लोग जब अनम्यूट करते हैं तो इमीडिएटली आप म्यूट होइए. Right. So thank you very much for taking the session and also taking up the queries. I hope the session has been really useful, as it was also a demanded topic as to discuss something about grammar and grammaring. So it's better that you came up with a new concept of grammaring and discussed how grammar can be taught from the context. So thank you very much, sir, for taking the session on behalf of NCRT, RI Gopal, and all the participants. I'd like to thank you for taking the session and enlightening the participants. Thank you very much. We'll stop here for 10 minutes and we'll start sharp at 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, we'll all meet again. And don't leave the group and start joining late. I'll start sharp at 4 o'clock. Don't take us for granted and take your liberty of joining at any time. We'll start and maybe we can also stop people from joining. So do join sharp at 4 o'clock in next 8 minutes. Thank you very much, Deepak sir. Namaskar. ऑर्गेनाइजर प्लीज रिकॉर्डिंग बंद कर दीजिए और कॉल को ड्रॉप करिए फिर से हम मीटिंग ऑन करेंगे ताकि हमारा वीडियो सेव हो जाए मीटिंग ऑफ करिए और फिर से ऑन करते हैं ताकि हमारा रिकॉर्डिंग ये सेव हो जाए ऑर्गेनाइजर प्लीज डू दैट थैंक यू इन द मीन टाइम जो हमारे साथ कनेक्टेड हैं उनको मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ, यहाँ बहुत सारे डाइवर्स ग्रुप हैं, कोई यूनिफाइड एक प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं है जहाँ के सारे टीचर्स को हम मैसेज पहुंचा सकें। तो मैंने एक ऐसा ग्रुप क्रिएट किया जिसमें मध्य प्रदेश के जितने भी जिले के सेकेंडरी और सीनियर सेकेंडरी के टीचर्स हैं वो जुड़ सकते हैं। और वो एक ग्रुप जो है वो आपको एक लिंक पे क्लिक करके उस ग्रुप में आ जाएंगे। तो सारे ग्रुप को हम एक में मर्ज कर रहे हैं। आप अपने इंडिविजुअल लेवल के लिए उसको रखिएगा, लेकिन मैं एक लार्जर ग्रुप चाह रहा हूँ जहाँ के हम लोग किसी भी पेडागोजिकल इनपुट्स के लिए जुड़ सकते हैं। तो एक लिंक मैंने चैट में शेयर किया है, आप उस लिंक को ज्वाइन करके इस ग्रुप में, उस लिंक को क्लिक करके इस ग्रुप में ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं। इसमें सारे एमपी के जितने भी डिस्ट्रिक्ट के टीचर्स हैं, जैसे अभी बहुत जगह से हैं, तो एक लार्जर थोड़ा बड़ा ग्रुप रहेगा, मैक्सिमम पीपल रहेंगे, ताकि हमें कुछ इस तरह का नया इन्फॉर्मेशन देना है, टीचिंग से रिलेटेड कुछ इश्यूज है, हम लोग कॉमन प्लेटफॉर्म पे शेयर करेंगे। मैं इसमें सारे यूट्यूब पे वीडियो डाल के उसका लिंक भी यहीं डालूंगा, ताकि हमारा अलग अलग ग्रुप पे शेयर करने का प्रॉब्लम खत्म हो जाए। प्लीज ज्वाइन करिए।